Hi everyone, this is Cassie Jordan here with TV Pipe Solutions. I'm here with Brett Ekart, who's the CEO and president of our awesome company. He's joining me today. We're going to talk to you guys a little bit about the reline industry, sort of what led us to creating this division of the company. With that said, I do want your questions. We want to just have an open discussion today with you guys. I would say nothing's off limits, but I can't really say that when some of the people I see have joined the presentation. So use the questions box in the control panel. I don't have any polls for you guys today, so I won't be using that, but you can use chat or questions and I'll be monitoring those and asking Brett that kind of stuff as you guys shoot them our way. So, all right, Brett, can you give us a little background about you, the companies that you represent, and sort of what led you to be the CEO of all these companies?
Yeah, I'll do what I can. So I'm third generation family business. My grandfather started our scrap recycling business in 1972. So that's kind of where this all spawned from. So we have multiple scrap metal recycling facilities in the state of Idaho and Oregon. When in mid-late 70s, we ended up acquiring Treasure Valley Pipe. We actually just wanted the property. We didn't really want to be in the pipe business, but it just so happened that a pipe business came along with the property. So we acquired Treasure Valley Pipe at that time. They were doing tar-wrapped steel pipe. And selling a little bit of PVC. So we bought the property, bought Treasure Valley Pipe, and then we started selling just PVC, plastic pipe. And then because we were in the steel business, we decided to start selling culvert steel pipe in the early 80s. So that's kind of how we got into the pipe business. I retired my parents in 2016, so about 4 years ago.
Okay.
And so I spend a lot of my time on the scrap metal recycling side, a decent amount of time on the pipe side, and then we also have a trucking company as well. So we stay busy around here.
Yeah, so I know the background, but not everybody on this call is going to know what led you to create a Reline division of TV Pipe.
Okay, well, we are one of the largest steel culvert supply companies in the United States and definitely in our region. So we have been selling and distributing corrugated steel pipe for a while, and really heavily since probably 2004-ish, 5 is when we really got going. We have an awesome crew of guys led by Joe Ross that kind of really have springboarded us very heavily into the corrugated steel pipe supply side of the business. And we started getting calls for solutions on how to reline these old culvert pipes. There was a big flood in Nampa that happened, and there was a culvert pipe failure 3 years ago-ish, and flooded a whole subdivision of nice, $300,000-$400,000 houses. A whole subdivision of them, or a good jag of it. And at that point, the state of Idaho started saying, all right, we need to start inspecting and looking at all these culvert pipes. And that kind of spawned it for us. It's like, all right, we need to look into what products are out there that we can give our customers options to line all these culvert steel pipes that we've sold over all these years. So we started looking into options, and we came across the company that was for sale in Newcastle, Indiana, Interflow Pipe, that made a mechanical joint, solid wall, HDPE pipe, and that's kind of what spawned our existence in the Reline business.
Fair. All right. So I'm going to keep diving into questions we have here. How have you seen the pipe supply or reline market change in the past 30 days with everything going on?
It feels like, and I go through the quotes and I talk to individuals like yourself and people that are in the business and operating through it. the supply side of our business, the culvert steel pipe, because farmers at this time of year in our main areas are, they're starting to get water in the ditches. So they're getting ready for irrigation season. It's coming hot and heavy. That water's coming no matter what, whether there's a virus or not. They've got to get those ditches prepped. There's a lot of state jobs that were right in the middle, highway district jobs that are right in the middle of getting done or in the middle of completion. So that pipe is still moving. The reline side, because it's a lot of long lead sales times, it feels like there's a lot of quotes and there's a lot of people that want to get these projects started, but because of the uneasiness and just what's going on out there, everybody's afraid, I think, to pull the trigger and say and commit to doing these jobs, not knowing when they will even officially be allowed to do them. So that I'm feeling like that's slow, that's lagging, but I also feel like that's going to come real hot and heavy, like a shotgun blast at some point, and you're going to get almost so much work that they're not going to have enough contractors to do the work when they actually give everybody the go to work sign. So that's my feel. I hope I'm right. Just for everybody that wants to and needs to go back to work, but we'll see.
I actually sat on a webinar today at lunch from the Wastewater Digest, put it on. It was about the COVID-19 and kind of addressing what these moderators had been seeing. Most of them were from the East Coast. So it's interesting you say that, because one guy said he had seen a lot of bids push, but they're pushing a few months. The budgets are there. They're just not sure when people can be out in the field to perform the work.
Mm-hmm.
Which leads to a question that came into the chat right now. What are your thoughts on the potential infrastructure stimulus package being discussed in DC? And do you see any of that money trickling down to the culvert reline business?
I think, and I've been kind of hot on the infrastructure deal for the last year or so, just because I thought that was going to be a big part of the election campaign coming into 2020. It was big in the election campaign in 2016. They discussed infrastructure, but there was other things that kind of came to the forefront. And I think that, and this is just my 100% opinion, but Trump was kind of saving that bullet and he couldn't save it any longer. And he basically said, we've been working on this infrastructure package and it's coming. So how does that impact the reline side? I think it can't do anything but help it. I mean, one of the biggest things, you know, I've had the conversation a lot with Stephen Bogus, and he's big on, you know, if the funding's there, the work is there. It's not a lack of jobs, or it's not a lack of potential. There's definitely not a lack of stuff that needs done. It still comes back down to funding and funding availability. And I get the feeling that if the funding is there, even if it's only a small portion of that, of a larger infrastructure package, there's going to be, you know, a pretty big impact on our industry. So once again, I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm definitely optimistic.
And this goes back to my very first Reline Live with Ryan Harrington. He had mentioned a stimulus package needing to have projects already what he calls shovel ready. Well, shooting Ryan's horn on that webinar I listened to at lunch, this guy repeated the shovel ready line 3 times, saying that when this infrastructure stimulus package comes out, we need to already have these projects designed and ready to go, because that money is going to be spent and it's going to be needing to move fast. So what we can be doing at home, our team, all of our different manufacturers right now, in my mind, is getting those projects designed and getting them stamped and out ready to bid, so that we can put money
and kind of in some sort of budget that you can apply to that job, so that when the time comes and let's say each municipality gets X amount or each state gives X amount and they start allocating this money towards their infrastructure, and you know what takes priority, and if your budget and your analysis and everything is ready to go, and you can slide that in front and say this is why this should take priority versus this other job, I think you're going to be ahead of the game. So if it's money allocated to infrastructure, I think the more you can have ready to go and put in front of somebody and they can pull the trigger and they know that's going to create X amount of jobs, or they can utilize the money that's given to them. I mean, I think it can do nothing but good. If you're involved in the industry, I think it's a good time to get it ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, another question. What have you found the most fun, but also the most challenging in starting this Reline division? And I'm sure it was managing me, but what else?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the coolest thing about my job is I get to work with all my friends. I mean, not many people can say that, like you and I were friends before we ever worked together. So, I mean, I'm lucky in that regard. So the coolest thing is just probably all the people I've met. Like I've met so many people across the country that I never would have met just doing running the trucking company and the metals recycling company. So the Reline side has opened up a crazy amount of travel at the beginning, but also it opened up just a bunch of relationships and just the ability to meet a bunch of super smart people way smarter than me and way more business savvy than me, and just all in their respective fields. I mean, when we first got in the Reline business, we were, our plant was located in Newcastle, Indiana. I had never been to Indiana one time until we flew over there, looked at the operation, met a super cool guy in Chris Weishart and his wife, Tamara, that understood and they knew the Reline business and they taught us a lot about it. And then from there, when we hired you and then we started traveling and selling and meeting, various people in the industry, Hugh Mickles of the world. And, that's been really cool. The hardest part is just the long lead times. I'm not used to long sales lead times like that. I mean, if we bid a job, whether it's a demo job or whatever, I mean, we usually know within a few days whether we're going to get the job. I mean, I'm just not used to a 6 month, 8 month, year and a half lead time. But I'm getting more accustomed to it as time goes by.
Yeah, we have had some long sales cycles, it seems like, but that's designing the project from beginning to end. It does take a while, especially how big the project is. So that kind of leads me into, I think everyone is curious, or at least, I was, even when you brought it to me, what your reason for starting Reline Unknown was. I mean, I knew that you were excited about the industry, but I had never in my life listened to a podcast until I met you. So what led you to this idea of going from, hey, we're in the Reline industry, to I'm going to take this to a digital online conversation?
Well, I'm a big believer in podcasts. I'm a big believer in that, in the social marketing. I just think that's good for your business. It lets people know what you do. But probably the biggest reason why we started Reline Unknown is when we got into the Reline business, we wanted to be able to provide a product that could reline culvert steel pipe that we were selling. That was the biggest reason why we even bought into the Reline industry at the beginning. And once we got into Indiana and we started running our company and making product, we realized that I didn't know a lot about the Reline business industry as a whole. I mean, there was so many products, there was so much going on with it that I was in search for smart people. I'm a big believer I know we talked about it yesterday, but I don't ever want to be the smartest person in the room. I will go search for a room with people that know more than me, that can teach me. And the whole premise behind Reline Unknown is tell me about your product, tell me about the Reline industry, tell me what you know, And then I'm in the background scribbling notes and trying to understand it and trying to get better. And then so I can pass it on, and not just pass it on to like our company, because we're putting it out there on social media, because I want more people to understand that this industry exists. Like, this is a crucial industry going forward in our country and other countries. So if we have the ability to teach people, and also I'm getting basically a quasi free lesson at the same time, I mean, I think it's a double win. So when we started kind of hatching the idea, I was like, yeah, this is perfect. This is right up my alley. I'm not the best on camera. It took me a while to get over the hump, but once I got over that hump and realized I don't really care what you think I look like as much as I want to know what you know, so I can use it to our advantage somehow, then it was easy to keep going and keep learning.
Awesome. So what do you think the future of Reline Unknown looks like with our current travel bans? I mean, you and I haven't been in the field for months now for Reline Unknown.
Yeah, well, I think you and I have a pretty good idea of what we're going to do with Reline Unknown. And, you know, we can, depends on how far we want to get into that here, but we have some pretty cool things coming up for Reline Unknown that involve you. So without getting too far into that, I think we've got some really good guests that we've discussed doing Reline Unknown with. Once we can get the lid lifted off the travel ban and get out and about and shake people's hands again. And I think, without giving away too much, and I'll let you give away more, I'm super excited about where it's going and what we're capable of, and how many more people are out there that we can interview that people really want to hear from, and people really want to hear what they know and what can they teach you about the industry, and get people more aware that this industry not only exists, but is going to be huge for infrastructure coming down the line.
Well, and to that point, I mean, this is why I kicked off Reline Live, because you and I are stuck, you know, working from our home office or our office without being able to be out in the field and meeting these people face to face. So we wanted to keep I wanted to keep the conversation going, and I think obviously you were totally on board with it. But even just doing the last 3 weeks of Reline Live, I've learned that there are so many topics out there that people want to hear. I mean, Don LeBlanc's, his grouting topic, we went an hour I always schedule these for 30 minutes. We had the most interest. I mean, just tons of people. Ryan Harrington, people want to learn about all the different products he's using out in the field, and why is he recommending different products that he recommends, and then bringing in different manufacturers. I think that it opens people's eyes to, there's so many products that even if we don't rep them all, there's just a lot of options in the industry. Stuff that, I mean, we learn more and more every trade show we walk on who all does what and how they play a part in our industry, right?
Yeah, and I think like that was one of the biggest eye openers for me when we got in really heavily into the reline industry. Was there is a ton of products because there's a reason for a ton of products. It's not that there's just people trying to get into the industry. Like, no, every pipe that needs repaired, whether it's structural repair or it just needs sealed or whatever it is. I mean, there's a ton of products because there's a ton of applications and necessary applications for these projects. So that was probably another big eye opener for me when we got into the Reline. It was like there's a different gun for everything, and I think that was pretty cool and just that's how we've been able to develop TV pipe solutions, is because we didn't want to be, just one type of reline. We know that like say snap tie, like that can fill the niche for a lot of projects, especially on the structural side. I mean, that thing hits it out of the park for a lot, but not every project, Man, there's a lot of them that that's not necessarily the right tool for the job.
Adam asked a question when he registered, actually specifically around you being the CEO of the company, you owning a pipe company as well as a Reline company. What are some Reline products out there?
I would almost defer that to you, to be honest. I mean, the one thing about when we got into the Reline business, and one of the reasons why we hired you was we were trying to grow and develop other products in the industry. We were able to connect with the ISCO guys and the SnapTight guys and create that relationship, and that's been nothing but awesome. But we've also made a bunch of other good relationships that you've developed. I haven't really developed those. I mean, I know the products, and you and I have had the conversation of, you know, why they need to fit into our portfolio of what we can offer. But I would almost like flip that question back on you and say, you know, you've helped develop that side of the business probably more than I have. And you know those products probably 10 times better than I have.
Yeah, Adam, to answer your question, and I see you're on the call, thank you. We represent quite a few different products that do very different things. So I will send you more information, but like we represent a Hydrotight joint seal. So if your pipe is not deteriorated and structurally is sound, it can just seal the joints. We represent Centripipe, which is a cementitious spray liner for very large diameters. We do profile wall HDPE. We also work with a company called Primus Line, which is for smaller diameter pipes, and it's a very niche product. So without going into too much detail, would you just reach out to me and you and I can talk about what projects you have, and then I can look at sort of all the product lines you represent and make sure I recommend the right product for each job. So sorry to be vague, but that's a tough one to just give a, you know, there's just a lot of Reline products as we've been talking about. So I know we can help you. It's just a matter of what the project is. Okay, so I'm going to go back to TV Pipe Solutions a little more. You and I talked about it yesterday a bit, but not as much today, is the marketing aspect. You are super supportive of marketing, which is, I know why you brought me on board. With my background was never in sales and certainly not in the pipe industry.
You didn't grow up in the pipe business?
Yeah. If you would have asked me 5 years ago if I would have been in the pipe business, the answer would have probably been hell no. What?
Yeah.
But we're more than just a supplier, right? Like you and I are a marketing team essentially, as well. Nick internally helps with marketing, and I think that's one thing that we kind of set ourselves apart. Why don't you highlight some of the social media stuff and what you've really given us the go-ahead on spending on marketing dollars?
I think the biggest thing is for us, I mean, we don't do trade show magazines. We do trade shows. It's important to be able to get out in front of your customers or your potential customers. And for us, on the solution side, our potential customers are everywhere, are people from engineering to excavation, construction, to general contractors, and everything in between. People that want their product represented, and they want it represented by a company that's of quality, that's going to represent them fairly and help them push their product. So I think that's where the advantage that we offer on the solution side, that we have at the back end of the supply side. We understand the pipe product. We understand like what the potential solutions could be. But from a marketing side, we're big on social media because that's where I think the marketing is going. It's away from the TV commercials, the radio commercials, the print ads, especially in our industry where you need to touch a bunch of different people at the same time as far as, you know, get in front of them. I think the best way to do that is on websites and stuff like, you know, LinkedIn and some Facebook stuff for your local. But from a dollar standpoint, I mean, we do allocate a good jag of our marketing budget And when we say marketing budget, we also include our trade show spend and at social media, stuff like this, email lists, because we want to know who the players are and we want them to know like the products we represent and that we stand behind the products we represent and that we're going to go hard just trying to supply people with information. I think information is super valuable, and the only way to get your information out in front of a lot of people is through social media at this point in the game. And that's really amplified when everybody's on lockdown right now. I mean, I'm lucky enough to be able to come to work every day because all of our businesses are considered essential. But I mean, not everybody has that right now. So you have to still be able to get in front of them and still, you know, and I don't even consider it sales as much as it's just information. Just here's what we do, here's the products that we provide. If there's something that you're looking at, a job or something that you think we might fit, reach out to us. Here's all of our contact information. And if we can help you, if we can provide you with some value, great. If not, maybe there's somebody else that has something else, product-wise, that's better suited for you than us, which is great too, because someday down the road, you might have a project that works for us.
I think I would say the biggest spend up until the last 30 days of our marketing budget was really face-to-face meetings and trade shows. Obviously, that's why we're quick to shift. So 3 weeks ago, we started Reline Live, so we could still talk to you guys, we could still answer questions, but really it's more about who do you guys want to hear from? You know, I'm just kind of a moderator to feed questions that you guys are bringing in, but really it's, let's just keep industry conversations going. Let's keep hearing about cool products that are out there, whether we represent them or not, they're there, right? Let's talk about them. If I'm going to bring on in a few weeks a contractor who does nothing but Reline, so people can pick his brain about, you know, what projects, what problems has he run into, what products has he found most useful and why, and maybe which scenarios has he used different products that work. So we want your guys' feedback on who else you want to hear from in the industry so that we can keep making these valuable and we keep getting the great attendance that we get.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is the feedback. If people out there want to hear from, you know, a certain individual or whatever, I mean, like I said, we have some pretty good guests that we've kind of lined up and that we feel that people would enjoy hearing from. But also when we talk about like going back to Reline Unknown, one of the biggest things with Reline Unknown was we wanted to have no bias. Like we want no bias. Like if you represent a certain product, we want you to discuss your product because you probably know a ton about it. We didn't want it to be a shill for one product versus another. We want it to be like straight up as much information, quality information, because that's how you're going to get people to cue in and listen to it, and because they're not going to feel like they're necessarily getting sold to. And I mean, we're here to supply the information, because if you supply the information and you're good at what you do, then essentially the customer at that point will make a decision. This is the product I need. This is what I can afford. This is the route I want to go. We're just here to give you the information.
Absolutely. So I don't see any more questions that have come in, and we're right at the 2 o'clock hour. I'm going to wrap this up with you, Brett. But I want everyone to know next week, our Tuesday Reline Live is Spiralite, which is a profile wall HDPE large diameter pipe for relining. And then on Thursday, we're kind of actually going away from relining a bit based on customer requests. We represent a Contech bridge, a multi-plate bridge product. We've had a lot of demand for. Municipalities specifically are coming into the bridge replacement. We've got a customer that we're going to be showcasing in Idaho that just installed one of these. So if you guys join us, we've got Chad Kitchen with Contech Engineered Solutions, who's going to join us next Thursday, and we're going to be talking about multi-plate bridges, so structural bridges. Not about
Chad is really knowledgeable. He's really good at what he does. I mean, Contech is a phenomenal company. We've worked with Contech for a lot of years, and they're a big part of our business. So I think that one should be really good because I mean, when people think of bridges, I think they think of these big, massive structures, and there's a lot more to bridges than just these big, freeway overpasses. I mean, especially over here where we're crossing a bunch of canals and ditches and small streams and rivers, and Chad is really he presents really well and he's super knowledgeable. So I mean that should be a good one.
It would be a great one. And we've had a lot of requests for some contact products, but there are so many. We're going to break them up by categories and do different Reline Lives based on the demand of who's asking about which product. So that's our first one of probably many with contact. So
Cool. It'll be
thank
fun.
you guys. Yeah, you can register for all of these on tvpipesolutions.com. Click social Reline Live. All the registration links are there. Plus, all the videos of the past Reline Lives are on our website for you guys to view whenever you want. Have a good
Thanks,
afternoon.
Cassie.
Thanks you, Brett. Thanks for joining, guys.
Take care.
Bye.